We do have a guest we'd like to bring in. He's got a book, In A Pryor Life.
Oh, shit.
Yes, it is indeed Richard Pryor Jr. Here he is, the namesake of Richard. There he is. How you doing, man?
All right, how are you?
Good. Take a seat, my friend.
Sorry, sir.
Richard Pryor.
I'm good. Dave.
Hey, Dave, Richard.
How are you, man? Nice to meet you.
What's up?
You got any input on the wackiness that's going on with this whole fucking thing? I think it's a little too scary.
It's crazy and scary.
It is a little too scary.
I'm really afraid to say anything.
Right?
You never know.
I know,
See?
right?
Smart
It's
guy.
terrifying, right?
I'm an idiot. Yeah. So you got a book.
Yeah.
In a Prior Life. Now you're Richard Pryor's son.
Yes, that's what I was told.
Very obviously.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's weird. No
Is it
offense.
good?
It's like
Yeah,
one
I'm
of my
sure
heroes, and he looks just like him.
You get that all
A
the
little
time.
bit.
Yeah, I think you look a lot like in the face, for sure.
Oh yeah, the eyes are right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Very yeah. I could definitely say it. And your mom is
Dead.
well, okay. Well, what does she know on the clues?
Yeah.
Just-
Shot
No,
18 times, suicide.
who was your mom?
My mother was his first wife. Her name
Okay.
was Patricia Watts during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she was his first. She was actually, I'm proud of her. She's the only wife that never sued him.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So how did they hook up?
Yeah. She was 16,
Wow.
and I think he was 19 during the time they kind of met. And
Was he out of Peoria at that
yeah, out of
point?
Peoria. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? 16,
Yeah.
19 is not bad.
No.
People do that, especially back then. It
Kids,
was a different
too.
time.
Yeah,
Different time.
kids.
It was a different time. He wasn't on that
Well,
plane.
and your dad's upbringing was not good. So, yeah.
We've heard a lot of those stories
Yeah.
about your dad's upbringing and the fact that he had to be witness to so many horrific things that a kid should never see.
Well, but I was raised around my great grandmother as well, so I thought it was normal.
Really?
Oh, you were actually raised there, too.
Yeah, I was always around my great grandmother and the prostitutes, and I'd sit there, when they would teach me how to play cards and stuff. I don't know if it was cards or Go Fish or something, and we'd sit there, and one of the girls would be like, "Hold the hand, I got to go turn a trick," and she'd go upstairs.
Holy shit.
How old were you?
7.
Holy
At 5 years old, I was like selling bootleg to the people that would come to the window.
It's the coolest 5-year-old ever.
Yeah.
So your grandparents, they took a hand in raising you then?
Well, I spent the most of my time with my mother's family, but always after school in the evenings, and during the summers, I would always be around my great grandmother and everything. So I'd be around the pool hall, or I'd be sitting in the whorehouses.
Wow. Were you raised more in L.A. then, or in
No,
Peoria?
I was raised more in Peoria.
More in Peoria,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. When I go to L.A. with my dad, spend time with my dad, I'd come back and I kind of have to be deprogrammed a little bit because I was used to everybody doing everything for me. And my mother had to, take out the garbage, wash the dishes, all this stuff. So, yeah. It was,
And you, were you close with your dad from the earliest you remember?
earliest I can remember, I remember actually meeting him because when I was born, right after I was born, he said he was going on the road and we'd be gone 3 months and he was gone 3 years. Cool. And he made it during that time period that he left. So
Was that a sort of transition from almost the Cosby-esque character to the real Richard Pryor?
well, no, during that 3-year period, that first part, he was still like the Cosby. It was still the the Ed Sullivan
friendly,
period
yeah.
and all that.
It's so funny, the suit.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit him at all, yeah.
Yeah. No, it didn't fit him at all.
No. I mean, he was still successful because he was funny as hell,
Yeah.
but then when he became the real guy,
Oh yeah.
that's a legend.
Oh
So
yeah.
you must have been probably, what, 10 or 9 or 10 when he really just took off?
Yeah, I used to actually tour with him during the summers, and I would introduce him on stage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how I knew that he was a star, because I never looked at him that way.
Yeah, that's what I was curious as to. How did you perceive him as?
His friends were stars to me. He wasn't. Like when I met Billy D. Williams, I was totally starstruck. Anybody I met, I was starstruck, and he would like, "Well, how come you're like that with me?" Well, you're just dad.
What do you think these people are around?
Yeah.
What do you think they just hang out? Right. You think Diana Ross just hangs out?
Were you at any of the big specials that he's known for?
Yeah, I did. Let's see, not Sunset Strip. I know he did live in concert because a couple of things they do. They tape several times,
Yeah.
So I was there. I was always at the Comedy Store when he did things. The Richard Pryor Show back in the day.
Oh yeah.
So I was actually on Midnight Special with him. He was a host on the Midnight Special. I was actually on a co-host
love
with
that
him.
show.
So
Wow, you had a lot of TV time as a kid then,
didn't
huh?
get paid for it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun, I guess,
yeah.
right?
Was your relationship a little more special than? Because I know Rain had a different. You talked to Rain?
My sister, yeah.
It's like she seemed to have a different relationship with him, like
Well,
a different bond.
Well, daddy girl,
Yeah.
So there's a total difference there,
Right. Was he kind of like? Because I read Prior Convictions, and I was wondering, like, was he kind of a big kid though because of his childhood? Like, because I know he bought like a pony.
Well, yeah, he did a
stuff
lot
like
of those
that.
things, but my dad was really quiet, like super quiet,
Okay.
and very soft spoken, and we'd be in the same house for days and wouldn't know each other were there.
Isn't that something?
Really?
It's like, yeah.
Does
Well,
he
he was
ever
probably
think
he was
that?
probably freebasing.
Oh,
I think about
shit.
it at the time. That's
When
probably
did you
what it
start becoming aware of that whole thing, that there were drugs going on?
I think when I remember he came to Peoria to visit one time, and I was probably 16, 17 in that area. And I remember seeing like a 5-pound bag of sugar. And I was like, that's like interesting. I've never seen a clear
oh,
5-pound bag of sugar
The
before.
knife in it. Yeah.
And I think that's when I did realize that. And I realized things were getting really bad. I know it was a week before my high school graduation. And he came to my graduation, and he was like really messed up, kind of out of his head a little bit. And then a week later was the burn incident.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, that was kind of where he was really.
Yeah.
Did he clean up a bit after that?
He cleaned up for a little bit.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because I think people think that he went sober after that, but it wasn't.
No, he
the
went
case.
sober for a little bit and then went back, Yeah.
Jeez, did people tell you any of the horrible jokes that were going around about that time?
Oh, yeah, I knew the jokes. I
Your
definitely.
dad himself.
Yeah, he told it.
He addressed it.
Yeah, he
and
had
it was
to-
so goddamn
yeah.
funny. He goes, "Yeah, I heard that, motherfucker."
I love rallying the match.
Dude, that was so because everybody did that joke.
Yeah, I know.
When he did it on stage, everyone went, "Oh fuck, I did that joke."
Yeah.
Oh, I just love the fucking bum who comes up and like, can I get a light?
Can I get a light? Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, well,
I grew up watching it. I loved him.
yeah. Obviously, he was able to take a lot of that and make it funny.
Yeah.
And do you consider yourself having that same kind of talent, if it is indeed?
Well, yeah, I'm talented in that aspect. It's just really difficult. I tried in the early. It was the early '80s, and mid '80s. I tried doing stand up, and
There weren't many stand-ups around then.
and it was horrible.
Oh God! Everyone was a stand-up. There were 8,000 clubs and shows.
Yeah.
And finally, it got whittled down a little
Yeah,
bit.
The fact that it got like Richard Pryor and George Carlin, and then it turned into every hacky,
Yeah,
shitty shit,
yeah.
fucking melon smashing.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, and I worked at the Comedy Store, so I
You
was
saw
always
it all,
around it.
yeah.
Yeah, it was one thing I remember when I was working there in the art thing. I said I bought some cocaine, and I was like, told Sam Kinnis, and I was like, "Here, I got a little coke," and he was like, he looked at it, and he was like, "Please put that away," because it was like not enough.
It was a little. Yeah.
And so I ended up going to rehab, and I went to rehab, and I got out of rehab, and he said, "Welcome back, congratulations," and he gave me a fifth of Jack and an 8-ball.
Oh my
Really?
God! Holy shit!
what a dick.
See, you don't do that.
Very much what you would expect, though, from somebody at that time.
Yeah.
that time
yeah.
period,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, especially.
Do you think
someone like-
your substance abuse was a result of your upbringing like your dad's, or do you think you were just kind of part of the times?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think, the things that you go through, you kind of self-medicate. And
Oh, yeah.
then when you're in an atmosphere where it's everybody's doing it, you kind of fall right
Yeah,
into it.
yeah.
Did you get a more blatant atmosphere than
Oh,
the
no.
Comedy Store
Oh,
in the
no.
fucking 80s?
In the
It
80s.
was,
Oh,
yeah, it was.
it was probably like by law they required you to have coke to get into that.
I think
club.
so.
That was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Crazy shit.
That's-
So growing up in around all that, you start doing some. How old were you when you say you started doing drugs?
around the time I was in the military, so probably about 19.
Oh wow, that's
Well, you
kind of
went
late.
off a
But
little
that was for harder drugs.
Oh yeah.
I was smoking joints
Smoking
when I
weed.
was 11 and
Yeah.
all that stuff at Flip Wilson's house when I was little.
That's fucking.
Wilson.
That's the first place I smoked a joint at.
Really, was Flip Wilson
Yeah.
with him?
No, it was with the kids, his kids, and I think it was Billy D. Williamson. We were all over there, and he had this big bowl on his table, and we looked at it and was like, oh, look at that, and there was a machine there, and it was a rolling machine. So we figured out how to do it. We rolled up some joints and smoked them, and went crazy in the house. Yeah.
Everything sucks now. Doesn't it? I'm in recovery too. Like I have for years, but just the days where how could you imagine just blow Flip Wilson with a bowl of pot?
Flip Wilson.
Yeah.
Flip Wilson's fucking
incredible.
He had a few shows back
Yeah.
when I was a kid. I remember
Yeah.
everyone watched Flip Wilson.
yeah.
And yeah, just an amazing time that was.
What was I'm wondering what was your dad's opinion of Cosby, because there's always the famous Eddie Murphy line of like tell him Richard Pryor said have a Coke and a smile and shut
Pretty
the
much,
fuck
pretty much the way it sounded.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the way it sounded. You know, it's even like people like, oh, I know him. Your dad and Gene Wilder were good friends, and no, they weren't friends at all.
No,
Him
really,
and Gene
Gene
didn't
Wilder?
get along, right?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, they didn't get along at all.
no.
Huh?
They just made good money.
Made really funny movies
yeah.
together. Sort of like the Opie and Anthony show. Well,
I heard Rain in an interview once, and they go, "Did your dad like white guys?" And she goes, "He liked white women." I thought it was hilarious.
holy shit.
And but yeah, I loved him. And Paul Mooney, do you talk to him still?
I haven't talked to him in a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Been years since I've talked to him.
I've seen him kind of recently.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
He used to go on your show all the time.
Yeah. He's kind of he's a pain in the ass, but I think he winks a lot at
Oh, he knows
fuck
what
with
he's
you
doing.
and then be like, hey, how you doing?
Oh yeah, I've seen him
Yeah,
on
yeah.
stage. Like it's brutally racist, but fucking hysterical
yeah.
to me.
What are you gonna
I'm
do?
comic and I enjoy it.
I just think, and talking about that, today's comedians and comics and the criticism of some of the material, I'm asked all the time, do you have a line? Where do you draw a line? And I always say there is no line. In context, anything can be made funny.
Right.
If you just throw shit out to hurt somebody, that's not funny.
Right.
So, but that isn't included in the line of comedy. If it's funny, I'll say shit that directly affects myself, my family, tragedies that I've had in my life. But if it's an opportunity to make a joke, I'll blurt that shit right out. And
Well, yeah.
people nowadays just seem to be. Do you have any? It's so hard because a lot of these guys are gone. Do you have any inkling of what your dad might have thought of this atmosphere today, where everything is looked at and this outrage is going on?
I think he would have hated it.
Right?
I mean, because it's crazy. I mean, you look at comedy was a place where you could go and you would hear anything and everything, forget about what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
You could laugh, be mad, whatever you're going to do, and go through that, and then go about your life. Now it's like you're attacked for everything you say, everything you do, the way you deliver a line. Everything is it's like really minuscule how they pick and
Yeah, they pick
take
everything
every
apart.
single thing apart, and it takes away everything.
Yeah.
So now a comic can't do it there. What's inside of them, they have to be
trying
careful.
out stuff.
Yeah,
You know, like
Oh,
just
no, you
the
can't even do
thing of
that.
trying out something, and the crowd goes like, oh, or
Yeah.
gives you nothing. You know, you got to go back and maybe rework it, or maybe just drop it all together. They don't even get the opportunity to do that anymore because they say something and people go, oh, that was terrible, and he's a piece of shit or something.
Well, and do you notice it too? Like when your dad basically created real comedy, and I mean that wholeheartedly because it was everything that was real about him and going on, and he had the balls to say it. You know, talking about shooting out his wife's tires, his
Yeah.
crack addiction, everything. You
Yeah.
know, so you have this. Now you have people that do the same thing, but play the victim card. When your dad never victimized himself,
No.
he always took this full responsibility and turned it into a joke. To
He
explain-
owned himself.
Yes, he absolutely.
Yeah,
owned it.
yeah.
Do you notice that that's a huge issue with comics now? Is
Yeah.
they're not owning their own faults. They're trying to
you-
get accolades for them.
Was I think what a lot of comics, the mistake a lot of comics are making now is that they are trying to be funny. They're trying to do things, whether it's mimic another comic who is really good, but they don't have the substance in order to do it anymore. and they don't have the freedom to feel that they can be themselves in order to do it. So everything's a filler. It's like even the language they use as fillers to get a laugh. Whereas my dad, when he used the language, it was actually really a part of his life.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't like he was just dropping the F-bomb or anything like that. It was a part of, my
Right.
great grandmother. Then I thought some of the people in the family were called bitches. I thought that was their name.
Just calling women bitches.
Yeah.
And it's your grandma calling him that too. So,
That's funny.
Well, and you see that, and I don't know if this is the moment he changed, but it's what they always put in specials and everything, is that he's like standing almost in front of a chalkboard in New York, and he's finally saying fuck on stage and trying to talk more street than he ever had before. Like, was that right in that area where he finally just had enough? Because he just kind of quit, right, for a second?
He quit, and that's when I think he went to Vegas. And when Vegas was that when he was done with it.
Uh-huh.
And then he moved to Berkeley. I think it was Berkeley, California. And then after that, that's when he realized I've got to do me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't an act anymore. It was his life
Yeah.
being put up there. And now the movies, when he started getting movie roles, which I think surprised a lot of people how good an actor he is or was.
Right.
He was just an amazing actor. And what did you think as a kid watching him in movies? Did you finally start thinking maybe he's somebody?
Well, yeah, I know. The first movie I remember seeing was a movie called Busybody with Sid Caesar and Imogen Coca and all that. It was like his very first movie.
It was like a B movie, really.
Yeah, it was like one of his very first, like 67 or somewhere around there. I remember seeing that. But then I remember like a few years later, like, Lady Sings the Blues and seeing all that stuff and actually seeing your father doing things. You're very proud as far as to be able to see it. But you, as a person myself, going to places and watching these films, you didn't have an opportunity to really enjoy them because people were focused on you versus the movie.
Yeah.
And so you never really got to experience those things. So I didn't get to really experience till later when I would go on my own and really watch the stuff and watch his work. And I found out that most comics are really good actors.
Yeah.
And are really good at dramatic roles. Because most comics have a lot of crap inside of them,
Yes.
It's a lot easier for a comic to do a dramatic role than the other way around.
Right.
A dramatic actor to do comedy.
Right.
Sometimes it just, Robert De Niro. It just doesn't
Yeah,
come off
yeah.
good.
At all.
It comes off, yeah.
And
I always
Liam
say that
Neeson,
about
weirdly, it works.
yeah. I say that a lot about comics, how it's not just any one thing, a stand-up. Because you could take one comic's act verbatim and give it to somebody and say, now go up and just do it. It's the same words. It's got to be funny. And it's like, nah. And it could be just some of the greatest written material, but the person's not going to get a laugh because it has to be delivered from someone that understands where that all came from.
True.
And when you have so much that you came from, as your father did, it's very hard to find someone else that's doing that same thing.
True. I
Was
agree.
Yeah.
was he pretty pissed about the Blazing Saddles thing where he wasn't able to play the sheriff?
Oh, yeah, he was really...
Because we're all
Cleavon
still
Little.
pissed
Oh, yeah.
about it. Even though he did great, I
Yeah.
still would have really liked to see.
But you also, what I look at, if my dad would have got that role, would his career have went the same way as Cleavon Little's?
Wow,
that's
think
true.
about it.
Yeah, he
Where do you
didn't
end up on?
much
That's My
after.
Mama?
Yeah,
After
something
a
like
while.
that. Yeah,
I
it
used, to, I
wasn't
used to
good.
love that show.
Yeah. But it wasn't
Mama.
very far. No.
Yeah,
that's a good
yeah.
point too. Yeah, he wasn't black. And I growing up, I obviously loved The Toy, but I now realize he fucking hated that movie.
He
right?
hated the
Yeah.
movie.
But as a
Yeah.
kid, you
Yeah.
don't know.
Oh, as a kid, yeah.
Yeah, because you're like,
wow,
oh, it's just a funny movie.
Oh, it's a funny movie,
about
yeah.
a kid who gets an older
Oh,
friend. and
yeah,
it's
an older,
not-
yeah.
hated that one.
Oh, he hated it.
Well, he bought a black guy for his kid.
And his name was, and the kid's name was Master Bates.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And I have your dad's
I
autograph.
totally forgot.
Yeah.
And I have your dad's autograph on a very old poster, and it's for The Toy. And every time I see it in my office, I'm like, I wish it was on any other fucking poster
Other than that.
the movie that I know that he hated making.
The other tragedy was that was Gleason's last.
Dude, it was
movie.
Gleason's last
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, after just an amazing career.
Well, and nothing in common with Tom Hanks, which is not a great
yeah.
movie.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, he struck out twice. and then-
Yeah. Did he have any? Do you remember him saying anything about how he felt about Gleason?
Oh, he really liked Gleason.
did?
Yeah.
I assume
He's
he
from
looked up
that-
to
I
him,
think he
would
looked up to him. Like
imagine,
the people that like Jerry Lewis and all those. He looked up to all those people.
All the
So
old
being able to
old school
work with
guys.
those people, that was a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I love Harlem Nights. I think it's really underrated, but it's such a great fucking movie. And just to watch those generations of comics.
But they really couldn't make that movie now.
No,
Oh God, no.
another movie.
All
they
those
couldn't
movies you
make,
couldn't
man.
make now.
No, when you just punch a woman in the face.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
yeah. That movie cracks me up. I could watch that movie.
That's a movie where your dad's quietness, like subtlety, shows. Because
Well, he was sick during that time. That's when his MS
That's
was.
true, yeah.
His MS was really.
Oh, wow.
During that time period, so
Yeah, you could tell he was wearing out a little, but every scene he's in, he's just nailed.
he was actually that was the closest to him that I've ever seen him on film because of the quietness and all that. That's the way he really was.
Was there any toward the end of his life? Was there any regrets? Did he voice any things he might have wanted to do differently?
Well, it's unfortunate that none of his kids really know that because we were kept from him. I was kept from him for 6 years to being able to see him.
Now, what the hell is that about?
That his so-called wife Jennifer.
That was his last wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How the fuck?
Oh, she's evil.
someone's kids from-
6 years. During that time period, I lost my mother and everything. So when I saw him January of 2005, he had no idea my mother had died or anything. And it was like he was always close to my mother.
Wow.
And that was one of her things. She wanted to make sure she told him, "Let me talk to your dad one more time." And they
When
wouldn't
he
let
was
her
She
pause.
just fucking like lock him up?
Well, he was invalid, really, too.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
but-
couldn't do anything. He couldn't. Pick up
Right.
the phone and call anybody. He couldn't.
God damn.
Yeah, so she pretty much took control of everything, and we were separated from him. I didn't get to see him for 6 years. Yeah,
That's
Wow.
a shame.
yeah.
Holy shit! That's I gather
book.
you're pissed. Yeah, it's in the
gonna read
book.
Well,
yeah,
and your
in a
dad-
prior life.
Yeah,
And your dad passed fairly young. I mean, people think he was a lot older than he was.
he was
but I mean,
65. Yeah,
65, yeah.
Heck,
Yeah,
a
a week
hell of a lot
after
of
his-
living in that.
right
after his
I'll
birthday,
tell you
yeah.
that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have thought,
A lot of
a
living.
lot of living,
Yes, yeah.
a lot of living.
Right.
And still, in my opinion, I don't think anybody's ever been a better comic.
It's
You have, like,
amazing.
him and Carlin, and it's like
Yeah.
nobody's ever and they both kind of reinvented the wheel.
The amount of comics that say that Richard is one of their biggest influences these days, it's amazing when you think how many other comics have been around, how many years Richard was around for,
Right.
since the 60s, and to still be looked at as one of the most influential comics is
Yeah,
impossible. It's amazing.
it is
It's
amazing.
What did he think of George Carlin?
Oh, he liked George a lot.
did?
Yeah, definitely a lot.
Yeah, they were definitely
Yeah.
both kind of tearing shit up.
Yeah, definitely, totally.
Yeah.
They were out of the same cloth, so to speak, as far
Yeah.
as him and Lenny Bruce, and
There wasn't, it didn't seem like those guys had an agenda. It seemed like whatever was funny or even thought provoking or outrageous could be thrown out there without having to choose a side,
Yeah.
It wasn't like they knew what funny was. And if you're going to goof on the left or the right, you could goof on both if it's fucking funny.
Right.
If people find it funny, they're going to come and see you regardless of what your beliefs or ideology are.
not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, and
It's a shame.
you almost have it's safety now when you see somebody. And then what I loved about Pryor was you saw this side that people just didn't know. People didn't know existed. I mean, everything was still segregated to a degree,
Well,
and
they
it's like
didn't know
you
it
saw-
existed, but also they didn't talk about.
Right.
Right,
Even
yeah.
if they were living in that, they wouldn't talk about it or discuss it at
Yeah.
all. And so he brought it to the front. Hey, I'm gonna talk about what I went through. And
Yeah, one of the most innovative sketches on television was him and Chevy Chase
Yeah.
on SNL. And when that N-bomb drops,
yeah.
it's just
And he gets furious.
it's shocking
Dead
and
honky. That
hilarious.
That couldn't be played again either.
Oh, hell no.
And that's
The,
crazy.
the great thing about that bit, as you watch it kind of escalate and it gets funnier and funnier, when that N-bomb drops and everyone just kind of goes, but laughs. It's funny.
Yeah.
And it's the only word that works in that bit.
And the huge laugh comes from Dead Honky.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that coming back?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking. It's brilliant. And
My
again,
dad
it's one of
couldn't
those things.
stand Chevy Chase.
What's
that
that?
seems to be a
He
common
couldn't
thing.
stand Chevy Chase.
Oh yeah, he's just a. Ugh.
I think he's the most unliked person ever in Hollywood.
He's one of these. I think
Yeah,
he's
one
just a
of 'em.
narcissist. I think he's so self-important, and he looks down on everybody.
He was saying he was all sad 'cause he was talking to Lorne Michaels at one of his kids' weddings, you know, and he was going, yeah, I think I'm ready to host again. And he's like, just enjoy your daughter's wedding.
Damn.
It's like, Lorne, you did SNL for a year and you walked out on him. He's not going to go
Yeah.
do shit.
Yeah. Oh, that's
hilarious.
brutal. What else is in the book that
Oh my
people will find
This is interesting.
maybe things they didn't know
Being
about?
blamed for your father's death? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
How the hell?
someone. Okay, I did a film in I think it was 2009, and I played a female impersonator in the film. Someone took the pictures from the film, didn't say it was from the film, and posted it that I was a transvestite,
Oh shit.
and posted it on all these social media sites and media news sites, and because of that, it was not too long after my father died, a couple years after, but the fact that my father had died and these came out, I was then blamed for his death.
Like it
It shocked him
enough
so
where-
much that,
Holy
Your
shit.
dad who openly dated a transsexual. Yeah, I'm sure it stuns him.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'm saying he wrote it down in
Oh,
prior
yeah.
convictions. He didn't lie.
yeah,
Again, the man was an open book.
yeah, he was an open book.
Wow, that's
sure
kind
that
of a
would've really-
thin. That's
Yeah.
kind of a thin accusation.
And when you're younger and going through things like that, it really affects you. But when you're older, and your skin gets a lot tougher as far as the things you've been in
Yeah.
the business. You learn to shrug things off, and
Isn't that nice? Wouldn't it be great if you had that kind of a mindset back when you
Oh,
were
yeah.
a kid? But everything was so fucking important.
yeah, I wouldn't.
You took
I
everything.
wouldn't have been all through all
personally.
those rehabs if.
Yeah. it's gotta be.
Amazing how many times you just say "fuck it" nowadays.
Yeah.
You're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Care about that, or yeah.
Especially when you're telling people like Sam Kinison you're sober, and he's like, here's a,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
here's a
Yeah.
fifth and some Coke.
Yeah. Great
So
times.
are you in recovery or just
No.
decided
Yeah, just
that's it, huh?
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Just
that's a tough
stopped and
nut.
moved on.
yeah.
That's cool.
Again, when you get a little older, I think it just
You get older and things change in your life, and you look at things in a different way, and learning who you are as a person. I think a lot of those things helped me along the way, and also
Yeah.
writing the book helped a lot too.
Oh, I'm sure. Did
Yeah.
it just come out?
It came out in April.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And who else do you still hang around with people that were close with your dad?
No, it's weird. My sister Rain and I were talking about that. The people that you hear that how much they adored him and loved him, and those people aren't around us. I mean, we've even tried reaching out to some of those people,
Like Steve Harvey. And
Yeah, and
Isn't that
they
interesting?
just
comedy and yeah.
if you're not, but that's Hollywood though. If you're
Yes.
not there to benefit somebody, they have nothing to say about it.
And that's got to drive you into addiction in and of itself. I mean,
Yeah.
that just knowing how fraudulent all that is,
Yeah.
especially then.
Because it's painted as this, especially when you're on top. Oh my God, everyone is, and it just goes to show you how good they are at acting. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
everyone's your friend.
Oh, yeah,
everyone loves
totally.
you. It's the greatest thing. And then you slip up, you step down a few notches. You're not quite where you used to be. Maybe you tripped over some drugs.
Yeah.
Prostitute or something. And now, where'd you go? What happened?
Gone.
Or you
Oh,
have,
it can't be seen with you or
Yeah.
this. Go fuck yourself.
yeah. Or you have MS and you're running to the stage to get a picture, so it looks like you guys go way back. It's still a benefit.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Because that's what happened. They brought him to the store, and all those comics were like, "No, it's my best friend Richard." Where,
Oh,
like they probably hadn't seen him in years.
It's a
Yeah.
phony. Where do you live now?
I live in Harlem.
Oh, okay.
So do I.
So does Dave Landau. But now, how much time did you spend out in L.A. as an adult?
As an adult, quite a bit. After high school, that's where I moved to. I moved out there during and it was a rough.
Living with that
Yeah.
bullshit out there.
Yeah, it was.
just nuts.
I remember I joined this private roller skating thing. It was this lady named Helena ran it in the valley, and she was like off the co-star with Raquel Welch in that Kansas City Bomber movie years ago.
Oh, right.
And,
You know,
and yeah, so she had this roller skating place, and a lot of stars went there, and you had to be, become a member, and you got the card, little purple card, and all that stuff. And I remember getting the card. I was telling my dad, you ought to come by. They told me to invite you. You come by, and I said, he said, no, people mess with me. I said, no, it's stars and everything. He said, those are the ones that mess with me.
those are the ones.
Yeah, but I was at that age, 19, 20 years old. I was hanging out at Carlos and Charlie's, drinking, and nobody was of age, and nobody cared. And
Yeah, no one really gave a shit.
Oh, and into the 80s. Well, yeah, I mean, you look at even like Drew Barrymore, a lot of the younger child stars, they were all drunk and on coke.
What that was all about. I was out in California when I was like 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, that whole little part of my life there. And my dad was just, here, have a Coors, have this. No one gave a shit. I used to go to the bars there in San Juan Capistrano with him. And just drinking, and no one gave a fuck if an underage kid was drinking. It didn't seem like that big a deal.
I used to buy my mother cigarettes, go to the store and buy
You could buy. No questions.
I grew up in Detroit, and this is the 90s, but you could do all that.
Yeah, you could do all that anyway.
You could still go.
We're talking about the other places.
Talking about the rest of the real world where
America,
it wasn't just apocalypse, but you could just 15-year-old pony up to the bar and that no problem, as long as you had cash.
And now you started your sexual life pretty early, I guess.
Yeah.
You would have had to have,
Yeah. Well, a lot of it wasn't by choice.
Really? Oh, well, prostitutes.
Yeah. Well, prostitutes. And then I had actually, I think I was 12 years old, one of my dad's, his assistant, whose name was Armando, sexually molested me.
Jesus.
And also a lady who was on one of his films he did, her name was Mary Whitecloud. And I'll never forget, I ended up having sex with her. And
really?
She was like, pull out when you come, and I'm like, what is that?
Oh my God.
That's how young I was. I had no idea.
You're like, what are you even talking
She
about?
was 26, 27, somewhere around there.
My God, was she a teacher?
Huh?
No, I was just
No, she was.
Yeah, nowadays,
very
fucking
common.
teacher.
Yeah.
There was a girl, I don't know by White Cloud if she was an American Indian woman, because there was an American Indian when I was a kid that wanted me to have sex with her when I was about 13. In a barn. She's like, why don't we take a roll in the hay? Like that. And she really did. But her husband was out front, and he looked like fucking Billy Bear from 48 Hours. Billy Bear. I wasn't going to fucking even mess with that shit.
No.
Even at that age, I knew what stupid was. Yeah.
And your dad had an issue with inappropriate when he was touched like
same
by
thing.
Visitors that came through.
Same thing. Same thing happened to me, yeah.
And then it does seem weird to have that happen and then put a kid in the same situation.
Yeah.
Knowing that the odds are it's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Well, I think a lot of things when I went, the stuff I went through, I think it was so normal in a sick kind of way.
Right.
And everybody else is doing it, so yeah, Uncle so-and-so messed with you, okay,
That's all you
get
know.
over it. And
Wow.
No, if you're being raised in a whorehouse and then you go and have dinner with somebody's family, you're gonna be like, you guys are fucked up.
What a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah,
Where
it was kind of strange
where are the hooies?
when I went to my friends' homes.
yeah, I would
Realized
imagine.
it was totally different.
It was different. That's when you started kind of thinking,
Yeah, I was like,
hey,
wait a minute.
Did your
on
My
here.
family wasn't normal.
your dad was famous when you were still in Peoria, though,
Yes.
to a degree. So
Yeah.
did that kind of change the way that people looked at you then?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, I would imagine.
Totally, not knowing who your friends were, not knowing people hung around you, why, with the reason, and all those things I went through, because you just didn't know.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I would introduce myself, not in Peoria because everybody knew me, but even, when I moved to New York, whatever, I would first introduce myself just as Richard to see if people were nice. And if they were nice, then they would find out my last name. Because I've been to parties where somebody say, oh, this is Richard, and they were like, hi, and wouldn't pay attention, and then you hear somebody whispering, you know who that is? And then all of a sudden they're like, hey.
Oh, then they're all pals.
How you doing? Yeah.
Everyone sucks.
You see that shit, right? You start to, people like, and you see them look and start talking.
Yeah, and all of a sudden they come back like, oh, you're friendly.
Your pal.
I got your
what
beer, bud.
happened?
Hey.
Isn't that amazing? Just fascinating sitting here and talking with you, man.
Thank you.
Richard Pryor Jr. That is at Richard Pryor Jr. for Junior, on Twitter. Do you tweet much? Are you on social media a lot?
On social media, all
You
of it.
are?
Cool.
Okay. What do you think of that whole thing?
I still don't understand it.
I think I'm on there all the time, too. I just think it's the most toxic thing that's happened in this country.
It took me years to understand Facebook, and then Instagram came along, and I was like, oh, God, something else.
Yeah. Now there's pretty much 3 things you need to be on, and those are them. But the fact that that it's so toxic, and there's so many people there are just so many lost souls that have nothing going on in their lives and need to take out their shit on someone. So they'll, I always said it was like back in the real old days, you never had somebody write a letter to MGM telling, just pick an actor from back then.
Brock Hudson?
Yeah, well, Rock Hudson. But it was never like, you suck. Your movie sucks. Everything you do sucks.
Rock Hudson did suck.
He did suck, eh? But they never had the ability to reach someone. It would go through a publicist.
Oh, yeah, everybody,
You wouldn't even know where to write the letter. And then if it did get to you, it would get to a publicist. They open it first. They go, yeah, we're not showing fucking...
They'd probably think it was fan mail, and you send
Jackie
a
Gleason
letter, and you're just
that's true. Because I get a lot of those things like interview, requests, and I'm like, go to my publicist, and they're like, what do you mean? I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Now you have direct access to tell someone that their life's work sucks.
And how horrible they are.
And how horrible they are, and how fucking ugly they are, and how fucking this, that. And it's like, where does that come from?
Yeah.
This was supposed to be sharing of ideas, and it'll bring the world together, a smaller place. And it's like, nah, they took the worst in human beings and just threw it out there.
Well,
We're not quite ready yet, I think. We're not quite cooked.
And once they're the most vocal, everybody who's normal is like, I'm just not doing this. Like, if you don't have to be on it, you have to be.
Yeah.
Most people are just like, I'm done. I don't,
All weekend, I'm just making memes about the fucking Epstein thing. That's all. I'm making jokes, whatever.
And the book right here, if you don't mind me holding
Yes,
up.
the book.
Right here, check it out.
In A Pryor Life. Richard Pryor Jr. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you for having me.
Really cool having
we
you
really
on.
appreciate it,
Thank
man.
you for having me.
It was an honor.